get any of my intro? Do you want my computer?
No, just
Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. Here we are with Off the Wall Graffiti, immersed in art. Okay. Hello. Hi, everyone. We are here, Off the Wall Graffiti, immersed in art. And today we have Brian, Sonia Wallace, and Jenna, otherwise known as Rebecca.
Francesca, Rebecca. On
Sally.
Occasions when I wear pants, Billy.
Billy, yes.
Many identities.
It's 2018. I can be whatever I want.
You can. You are pluralistic.
What a good way to start the podcast.
Right? I can be anything I want.
Hey guys, there is no two ways about this. I do not have a very good segue into this next part of the podcast. I apologize, I'm doing this on the fly. So I'm gonna clap myself in, get quiet, and then the podcast will begin. Yay!
I'm calling that mentoring and mastery. And Brian has come to be the mentor and the master. And or have been mentored or mastered. And Jenna is asked to come as one who might wonder. You're here to wonder with us as a student of life and also a student of many things. What do you study right now?
I'm a cartoonist and an illustrator, and school I think is kind of irrelevant. But I'm getting my AA in drawing, and
at Pierce?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But I feel like when you are going to school, like, you're not really learning that much. It's just your goal is to get a paper that says, "Hey, I'm qualified, y'all." Like, look at this worthless piece of paper.
This is why I wanted
You
Jenna
walked
to come, because I
into
wanted
this,
to talk to
Brian.
her about all of this stuff. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Real quick, just so that people can stalk and watch us as they're listening. What's your Insta thing?
666 Satan's Helpers.
Oh, very.
No,
very
it's
good.
not. I'm sorry. It's Indie Jenna Jones.
Oh,
IND.
that's so cute.
Forgot how to spell. INDY. Thank you.
Oh, Indiana.
And then JANNA and then Jones.
Okay, so all one word.
Yeah, Indie Jenna Jones.
That's a lot of puns in
Yeah.
3 words smushed together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was my high school nickname because I went through this "I'm obsessed with Harrison Ford, I must make babies with him" phase.
Legit.
And then
And
Clarissa knocked you out. Who's Clarissa? His girlfriend. Go on.
Callista.
What'd I say? Clarissa?
Clarissa.
Oh, I'm wrong.
That sounds oddly sexual.
Okay,
But
on
like-
to Brian over here.
All right. Anywho.
Callista.
Oh, man.
Clarissa. Clarissa name.
Hi, Mara. How are you?
I'm good and red. What's your Instagram?
Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all the things is at RentPoet, RENT Poet.
Right. Very good.
P-O-E-T.
Okay, and so you have been a poet for how long?
Nah, trick question.
When were you not a poet?
Right. I started writing poetry probably when I was, 7-ish.
As you do.
Because that's, sometimes
The
kids
words come
make
out.
them write poems.
Yeah.
Or they choose to write poems. But I've been doing it professionally since as sort of the main hustle. I think we'll call it that.
Okay.
Since 2014. So
Since 2014, so
about
4
4
years.
years
Okay, you went all in.
Yes, so
Okay.
I had after college I was working in the nonprofit sector doing fundraising, And
Did that work? Can you come work for us? Sorry, go on. Side note. Inside thoughts. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's funny actually as an artist, because that's the sort of immediate thing that anytime I talk to arts organizations, they're like, "Oh, you do fundraising," and I'm like, "Yeah, but for my own stuff now."
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
good.
I just believe that you should get paid for doing things and know how to tell people that in ways that make them also think so.
Give me money
Very
for
nice.
my art.
That's a good
No.
lesson to learn.
That's the problem, that all artists do that. The actual answer is give me money for your happiness. And you just gotta flip the framework and think about, it's not, it's your self-expression until you're trying to hand it off to someone, and then it's theirs, and then you gotta think about what they're gonna get out of it. And I think that's
a trick.
moving way ahead, but that's
Okay.
a big piece of the framework.
But I did put that in my back pocket, so I got that.
Just
All right.
everyone's just buying happiness all the time. That's what we go out to eat, we go to a movie, we buy work, we support a nonprofit. That's all you're selling.
Buying happiness. Okay. Wow. All right. Good. Okay.
But we wanted to
Got
talk
it.
about mentorship.
Oh, that. Okay. Mentoring and mastery.
Yeah. What about it?
What
do you
about
want-
it?
what
Well,
can I
are you a master?
Ooh. That's such a good question for an artist, I think, as I feel it reveals way more about their character than
Okay.
about
Let me
anything
ask
else.
it in a pedantic way. Have you spent 10,000 hours being a poet?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
That seems likely. I mean, a big piece of my practice is writing poems for people at different events and in different ways. So there's kind of that thing where it'll be like 3 to 5 hours of not stopping writing
Wow.
in a given session. So the hours rack up pretty fast, which is one of the things I love about that practice. But I was thinking about mastery earlier, in the concept of, like, especially with the arts, and especially in my framework, I feel like I come at art from a more community-oriented civic perspective. I spent a lot of college doing and studying theater of the oppressed and thinking about ways that you can bring community into art, and the sort of mastership dichotomy can get in the way of that, I think. You get like the auteur filmmaker who it's like no one else gets to say it's their vision.
Okay.
And in the same way, I think, you see it even like City of LA does these master artist fellowships. And so who's on the list as a master becomes this, it becomes
Prestige
a division.
or something. Yeah.
Yeah, between people who are like, I wrote a poem once, and someone who's like, yeah, I'm a poet, and this is my craft, and I have mastery of it.
Right.
And also accents.
All of
Yeah.
them are not.
I'm a laureate
Yeah.
and I can say the word in many
Right.
languages.
Yeah. And they don't exist in America. No. Yeah, I was thinking about mastery, and like, what's a concept of mastery that I can start to approach? And I thought about the idea of fluency.
Okay.
Like, it's about a fluency in what you do, in a mode. I had a really funny experience yesterday when you talked to me about this topic that came to my head, where I was co-teaching with a dance teacher.
Right.
And she's teaching choreography to these middle schoolers, and one of them raises his hand and he goes, "Are you making this up as you go along?"
A middle schooler.
yeah.
A 13-year-old.
And one of our college mentors came to me afterwards. He was like, did that seem really rude to you? Like, I pulled the kid aside and like told him that, there was a better, like a more sensitive way to ask that. But it was interesting because I'm like, yeah. And the choreographer's answer was yes. Like, she hadn't prepared exactly the choreography she was going to do. She was improvising, but she had this fluency in the language of dance that meant that, yeah, what she was teaching wasn't something that she had, carefully crafted and prepared. She was like, and then I give this to a middle schooler. It was, hey, come speak my language with me for a little bit. Like, come play in the same sandbox.
Which is beautiful.
Yeah.
I feel like that's so...
And that resonated as like a truth for you. Like
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
where mastery lies for you is in that like the ability to just
Like the
perform it
performance.
as you
Yeah.
need.
Yeah,
Or
in a way.
not as you need, but perform it just whenever.
I think about it in terms of writing too, because a lot of the writing that I do is improvised, for lack of a better term. Someone will tell me, I want a poem about my mom, and I'll get to ask them 5 questions, and then I have to... Someone will ask for a poem about their mom, I'll get to ask them 5 questions, and then I'll have 3 minutes to write it. So there's not the space to go back and kind of, all of the self-criticalness and reflection and sort of digesting influence has to happen before that moment, so that in the moment it can happen in a way. And then, of course, with other projects, it's
the longer you
100
have,
years
the
of editing.
worst. Yeah.
I don't know necessarily if it's worse, but it can be.
Got it.
But yeah, I love the idea that it's like a culmination of all this knowledge, so that you have a fluency. In the same way that speaking a language, it's not like, whoa, you just said a sentence. Like, did you write that beforehand? But you can tell how comfortable someone is in a language by how they sounded it.
Right. Okay, and how did you, so hours gave you that, do you think? Or
I mean, I
study?
think-
Like, was it your studiousness, or was it or awe?
So I've never...
Speaking of studying over there, Jenna.
Yeah, right?
Oh, no, I'm thinking of what to say, but I'm not sure if I'm allowed to talk yet.
Mastery and mentorship.
Hashtag
Right?
women's rights.
What do you have to say over there? What's going on with your thinking
And
thoughts?
now, the voice of the youth. Just kidding.
Or, can I say something?
Yeah.
Or, oh, okay.
If you have a question or a thing. jump
No, I wanted to say, with mastery, I feel like you could be that type of person that's worked in a field for like 25 years and still not know crap. And then you could have like this person who's worked in the field for 25 years or maybe even less, and they really know their craft, but I feel like it's kind of cocky to say, yeah, I'm a master. You know, like,
Okay.
Yeah.
like it's kind of like, I feel like you should show your work and your work should speak for you. And then, you know, you should say like, I am really good at what I do. You know, they're kind of like a master, but no matter how far along and no matter how good I am, I'm still open for improvement and I'm still learning. You know, because there are people that have been painting for 40, 50 years and they're still learning. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah,
they're not gonna be like, I'm God. You know?
Yeah.
It's a good question. Like, is mastery
Yeah.
the end of it? I guess I think I don't know, I'm just going to stick on the extended metaphor of fluency for this
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
conversation. I think that's my deal. Like, it's not like if you grew up speaking a language, you can't get better at it or learn new words or more beautiful ways to put together sentences.
You're just
or
in tune.
yeah, you're like a
Yeah.
great essayist and then you've never written a poem. So it's just a thing of not mastery as an endpoint, but mastery as like you've gotten, I guess.
You've gotten to a
No,
point
I'm
where
loving-
you can professionally show.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can get fluency in all these different
Yeah.
like sort of rows of whatever it is you're doing, you know, like fluency in typography, fluency in brushstroking, or you know, or
And
different things like
I
that.
guess it's all relative. Like, I always think I'm terrible until I like work with non-artists, and then I'm like, oh, like it's just a different skill set.
Right.
Where like I'm looking at this through the critical gaze of like all of the other stuff that I've read and seen and heard and you know,
Have been deemed good already
Right.
too, maybe.
and then it's like, oh, I just have the references to see what's wanting in my work.
Okay.
And I think that's a big piece of what it is just like knowing enough about what the heck you're doing to understand where to correct course.
Okay.
And I think maybe what the path to that is like figuring out where to shift things.
So I think that's a space for mentoring, is what I think. Is so Jenna, I'm gonna direct this at you. Have you ever been in a scenario making your art that you're in, and someone, a teacher or a friend or someone, offers a suggestion, or you ask, like, are you seeing what I'm seeing, or any of that? Do you get that kind of feedback?
Yeah, plenty of times. But at the same time, you gotta make sure that, and I can't like press this enough. You gotta make sure that when you're working on a piece of art, you don't go to somebody who doesn't know crap like your mom. You know, your mom is gonna go, I love that.
Careful of the tapping on the table.
Sorry.
Because of the recording.
Sorry. Your mom is gonna go, I love that. I can't believe I birthed you. You're such a genius. And then somebody in a gallery is gonna go, wow, you spent no time on this. This is garbage.
So
I
you
make
seek
art,
out
I
the
make art
master.
primarily
Yeah.
for my mom, I would say.
Do you? Yeah, because I
That's so
only want to
sweet,
hear that I
though.
did a good
Number
job.
one
Yeah.
audience.
Right.
But you know,
But for real also.
you have to kind of, well, what I'm doing now, because I'm just starting my career, I'm working on a children's book actually, and what I'm doing is, and what I think other artists should do is, if you belong to some sort of group that is some sort of niche or whatever you're doing, you're gonna get feedback from millions of people that are just, on the interwebs. And they're gonna go, okay, you know what, this is crap, or you got something
You
going
trust
here.
that.
Yeah, because it's the same group of people that know what they're talking about.
Okay.
And a lot of people, like
But are they at a level
Yeah.
of mastery, or are they just a collective, like that, a trust?
I feel like it's a collective trust because it's people that have been viewing like what's actually good in this certain subject.
It's
for a
super
while.
interesting.
Like they're
Thinking
studied
about
about that. Yeah.
Online communities is a resource
Yeah.
in mentorship where I grew up, was a teenager in the early 2000s, so it was kind of the birth of the social internet.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe was part of that kind of first generation where I was like, it wasn't social media at that point, it was message boards.
Yeah.
But legit, like, I learned lots of the stuff
That's
that
like
I
Reddit,
know.
right? Or
Yeah, like Reddit would be like the closest equivalent where it's like
Yeah.
all text
Right.
conversations between people. And of course, like there's a level of trolling and there's a level of like people who are just on there to scream obscenities. And like
damn
that's,
art.
you know, that's part of our intellectual conversation
Or-
now, so that's fine.
Or
Yeah.
everything is fuck Trump.
Right.
That's a good thing. Go on.
Or the opposite, unfortunately. Anyways, but yeah, no, I think it's funny that I guess we kind of started talking more about mastery than mentorship, but not talking about people.
Right.
And I think like in my head, what I had before you started saying that was like, oh yeah, I have a couple of, individuals who I'm close to who've been really important, who are older and farther along. Never in my chosen sphere, but in lots of tangential things who have kind of helped walk me through, and I think in some ways given me the weird path that I wound up on. So I had in high school, I had a teacher who wasn't a teacher at the school, but came in and did theater and taught us, like, made me read all of these, like, Eastern European novels and Camus and Kundera, and made us do Buta, which is like
Helped expand your mind.
yeah, but it was like, it's not the thing that I'm doing now, but it was the thing of what it means to take a craft seriously, and also I think to connect like the rest of knowledge and not just make it like, and now we do theater and it's irrelevant to everything else. It was like, no, this is really deeply embedded in all of these other traditions.
Right. Like societally, how is it woven into the fabric of either history or of
Right.
your now?
And even like where, you can make an interesting play about math, and that's just something that like
cool.
it's sad that people aren't doing that more,
Right.
because it's not it's just not a separate sphere.
Right.
But I feel like that was really important. And then kind of when I started working, I had a mentor who just sort of showed me the ropes of how do you pay your rent, and what are the adult things that like just no one told you in school, because that's not what we do
In school?
unfortunately.
Yeah.
It'd be nice.
Kind of backwards, but yeah.
Paying taxes class.
When I graduated college, I definitely was like, what? Why didn't they ready me for this?
Totally.
And I wanted to have a psychology class in like, here's what it's gonna feel like to be creative and have people shove it back in your face. But maybe I think nowadays, like with the social media, we're a little better at hearing trolling. At hearing it
Maybe,
and
yeah.
deflecting it and going like, that's just a troll,
Yeah.
and
I guess I felt like the first time when I like actively had online haters felt like such an accomplishment.
Oh yeah.
And it wasn't a
Your
thing of like,
haters are your
and what do they
motivators.
say?
your haters are your
And not even in a like I want to beat them way. I was just like, dude, like enough people are reading this that some people don't like it.
I
Yeah.
have
cool.
arrived.
Like
Yeah.
great, not if everyone likes it, you're like probably that's a bad idea. And probably it's just bland and they're not caring enough to comment, I guess.
That.
I don't
have to
know.
remember that.
I love the idea of like
Yeah.
online communities as a form of mentorship, because I feel like especially with what I'm doing now, and I've been like trying to figure out how to get in-person mentorship to do the thing I'm doing, that like I don't know if there are sort of mentors out there for that.
You
But
reminded
there
me
is
of
the internet.
something. Yeah, you reminded me of something. It's kind of off topic, but I think that it involves this a lot. A couple of years ago, I went to a party and I was talking to this guy, and he was sort of like a hippie dippy dude, and really cool though. He actually, some of the things he said were nonsense, and some were actually cool.
And stayed
Anyways,
with you.
Yeah. So I was talking to him, and I was just like, "Hey, I don't know how to get my art out there. I feel like I don't have enough people, who really speak my language." And then he told me something that I never forgot. He was just like, and he was like so into it. Like, sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm just like, I'm too touchy. But he
Out of context of the visual, that's going to be a really funny audio segment.
But just like imagine somebody's listening to it, like when I said that, I was like rubbing on your face. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I don't understand.
She just drew the context. Okay, go.
And anyway, so he said, you understand that every time you post a piece of work, you are sending a message to someone. And that person has to relay the message, like has to understand and literally speak your language. And I was like, what? Like my mind was like blown. I was just like, I have to send this message to somebody, and then I have to get someone who literally speaks the same language and goes, hey, I get that.
Yeah.
And then, boom. And I just thought that was really interesting, because I feel like there are so many artists, but there are not enough people who speak that language.
And here's something that I'll say to that is, I think the word posted was really important.
Yeah.
In that description, when you post a piece of work,
Yeah.
you're relying on people getting it, because we speak this sort of viral language of the internet where it's like, well, like, can this trend?
Yeah.
There are people who, I was just reading this fantastic article about the hashtag van life. Like
What?
people who are making a
Van
living.
life?
Yeah,
Van
they're
life.
making a living.
Where you
like,
live in a van?
living in a, but they're getting sponsorships for it to live
Oh,
in a
I
van.
was right? I didn't even know. I just
Yeah,
made
yeah,
that up.
And like do yoga against the sunset, and
Oh.
like be like an attractive white couple. And
In
like
your
that's
van.
that's a
In
thing.
your fancy van.
In your in like a beat up van, but
Maybe
it's
Oh,
like
it's
this
better
that
hippie,
way. Yeah.
Youth ideal. But anyways, total tangent. I appreciate that just because I think there's an element of that happens with art online, and that happens with kind of the communication of self when it's kind of reduced down. And one of the things that I found ended up being really successful for me, I don't know how to replicate this for anyone else, but when I started really seeing success was literally, I mean, I'd always done theater, so it was events and people were having to come, and you would sort of, you'd have like a page or you'd have teasers online, but you wouldn't give the whole experience of the art. They'd have to come in person. But I just started setting up on a typewriter at different events and writing poems for people, and that was when things started to kind of take off, because it was an in-person connection, and it wasn't like I could see what language they were speaking, and I could adjust my speech. Like I could tell, okay, you are the kind of person who wants this, and as a result, I think I write such a wider range than I would have written otherwise, because otherwise I'd just be so preoccupied
And that's
with
a good thing.
my own
Thoughts and
Expression.
my own expression, and like my own expression's great, but it's not what necessarily the right thing for every person at every time. So it's all going to be my expression. It's coming out of me. It's not going to, I'm not going to change into another person. But I think we do in a way. We kind of blend together in our communication, the way we speak.
And that's a collaboration in that. And I actually, as you're talking, I was also thinking, I wondered, so I know you sit there, you're at a party, and you have this experience with this person. There was something about you being very open and vulnerable to them. And for whatever reason it flashed in, I wonder if you've ever been mentored by them without knowing.
Mentored by the audience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's deep.
Definitely.
Right?
Definitely.
No, I love that.
Yeah, it just, I mean,
Absolutely.
the way that you do what you do
It's instant feedback.
led me, there's something that they are actually giving you and offering you,
Right.
and you have to course correct and you have to
Mhm.
adjust yourself. And it may even be the mentoring of get out of your head without
Sure.
you knowing that you're in your head until you know you're in your head, and they're like, oh shit, you're right in front of me and I have to create for you. And
The one that I always think of is the mentoring to stop procrastinating. Like, I'm the eternal procrastinator, and if there's someone, if you
Standing right in
do
front
an
of
event,
you.
it
Yeah.
has a date, and then people will show up, and then you'd better have something. Or if there's someone standing right in front of you, you better write something, because otherwise they're going to walk away. So that pressure, for me at least, I think is really helpful as someone who, I wouldn't say I struggle to stay self-motivated. I say I know the tools to make myself self-motivated. I don't think
I was just
get
thinking
that.
about that for Jenna. I was actually
internally.
wondering, like, wherever we have our aversions, it just means that you have to find a way to put it on a different way. Like if you're adverse to the word mastery, then you turn around and sort of figure out, like you did, like it's not mastery for me. It's flow or fluency, right? And so that might be the same kind of like thing for
Yeah.
you, is where because you talked about an online community
Yeah.
of trusted friends who have gathered enough information for you to believe what they have to say.
Yeah.
Well, that's a group of masters for you,
Yeah.
where you feel comfortable hearing their feedback,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
But
I liked what you said about vulnerability as well, and it just made me think, like, I have a hat that I wear that is
a real one or a physical one?
an actual hat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like a writer's hat.
It's
A
literally.
chapeau.
And when I do workshops with like younger kids, I'll make them pantomime putting on a writer's hat. I literally do that, and I
love
think
it.
it's because there's a level of being an artist, and then there's a level of performing the artist.
Okay.
And I sit
Yeah, like-
somewhere in that weird middle ground of like writing and theater and performance art where I'm really present to that.
Yeah.
But I think even for visual artists, like the really successful visual artists I know are all just beautifully eccentric in their own way. Like either it's all of their clothes are splattered in paint, or they're like so put together, or whatever it is, it's that creation of
Self-image.
yeah, like beyond social media self-image,
Yeah.
beyond like what gets posted to like, what is the thing that people are buying into? Because if as a working artist, like you're trying to sell your work, when people are buying your work,
And you're
they're buying
selling
a piece of
yourself
you.
too.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, and we got, I think, an earlier podcast that we summed that up in calling it brand, like, and that gets a bad rap these
Right.
days because it feels like you're trying to commercialize yourself, but
And
it's
because
just
brand
a
is
word.
like literally a piece of hot iron that we used to put on cows to know whose cow was whose.
Exactly.
Like that isn't
It's
super appealing.
too cow-like, that word.
It just sounds painful. I don't
And
know.
permanent.
This is the curse of being a poet, is you're just in the etymology of every word, and you're
Right.
going, "What? Oh, that's what that word means."
Yes, the etymology meaning the etymology of a word.
Yes.
Look it up.
Oh man. But yeah, brand or we need to rebrand brand.
Or
I guess.
identity or
gonna say
whatever.
we need to
Yeah,
rebrand
exactly.
mastery.
You do. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's the thing. It's like we can jump away from the meanings of the things we're trying to talk about, but it doesn't go away. They're archetypal truths.
Right. In a way, to be honest, I think that I'd written this down too, which is interesting that now it kind of comes up full circle, is that I think what I'm a master at is not so much the art as it is the brand, in a
Ooh.
way. Because I work across a lot of different mediums and I adjust my medium depending on the project. So like any given project, one of the things that's satisfying for me is getting to learn something.
Okay.
And so say there's a project with an element of audio design, and I don't know a lot and I work with a designer, but I'm still, even if I'm not the main person doing that, as long as it's not a solo effort, you've got stuff you're learning from all these different people going in different directions. but then the mastery is actually the mastery of connecting those dots and the mastery of kind of facing outward and being able to show something for it that's good, whether or not you're a master of any particular element of it.
Well, and what I just filled in on there was being a master at the creative process.
Mm-hmm.
Not the thing, but the process.
Right.
And knowing that like if you open yourself up to knowing that you know how to create something to an end, that the good will come from that, and it's not necessarily are you the most skilled at it.
Right. Yeah, it comes nope, I had a thought and then it left.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Curious. All right.
I like the idea of, that's what I was going to say, mastery. What was it? Master of the creative process or something like that. That feels like a class that you could teach that would include like business for artists and some of the other kind of, they're not separate from an arts practice, but they need to be part of a creative practice for it to flourish. Because if they're not, then it's just harder to sustain it.
Right. Good. Okay. All right. What else? So you sat down, Jenna. What do I want to say? I want to say you were against mastery, but I think we talked that through. What about mentoring? You said you get mentored all the time but that's inside of people giving you feedback, right? Are they the same?
But it's well, the thing with me is I'll post something online and I'll say like, what do you think of my composition? What do you think of my colors? What do you think of my character? And obviously I go to the people's page, you know, if it's just somebody's grandma that's like, I used to draw back 40 years, you know, I'm just like, okay, obviously not really take that one to heart, whatever she says. Not to be rude, but you get what I mean.
Okay.
But like you visit other people's work and go, okay, this person clearly knows what they're talking about. Their work speaks for them. Okay, I'm gonna take that advice.
Okay.
So you have to.
So
kinda
you're
look
picking
at
and
the
choosing.
people.
Research.
Yeah, because you know, you have to
you don't want to take it in a vacuum.
There's some saying, and I forgot what it was, but it's like when you don't know how to draw, you love your work. And when you,
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and then the other one is as soon as you know how to draw, it's a never-ending cycle of like self-hate. Not like that. Not so negative, but you get what I mean. It's just like, oh
you
wow,
become
this
critical
looks.
of your own work. Yeah,
you become.
You're
super
capable
critical.
of seeing it unfinished.
Yeah, and then you're like,
not good.
I need to be better. I mean, it's a beautiful curse in itself.
Yeah.
But it needs to be there or else you won't improve.
Where do you get that from? Where do you get the ability to be critical?
Because I look at my heroes and people that have gone out there and you know, actually made the brand of themselves, made like their whole work, made like oh god. Where's my language? I feel like everything I want to say is just like
you're doing it. You're
like
doing
in
it.
here. But you know, like people who've started with books, then they made cartoons, then they made movies, then they made T-shirts, and then not only that is they kept expanding their talents as well. Like for example, if you go to the first episodes of The Simpsons, they look like chicken scratch the way that they were drawn, and they had different voice actors, and it just looked so weird. But I mean, we loved it because of The Simpsons. But as we got along, the art, the voice acting, everything improved, and it became the legendary show that it is today. And that's what I feel you need to be as an artist. You need to start at one point and be sorry. I'm so sorry.
Who cares? It's fine.
Anyways, but yeah. I'm so touchy. I'm sorry.
I think there's there's a distinction that I feel like exists between kind of like a wide mastery and a deep mastery.
Yeah.
Like, can you do lots of different projects successfully, or is it one, you know, I know how to draw a perfect circle, and it's so perfect I will be in museums.
Yeah.
Well, they say, right, that be more aware of someone that's studied one move 1,000 times than has studied 1,000 moves.
Right.
Yeah.
Master of none.
Yeah.
I have one last story that I want to share that I realized I didn't get in earlier. It's not a personal story. It's a historical story that I'm going to butcher.
Okay.
You're all visual artists, so you're all going to know it better than me. It's
Okay.
going to be great. You ready? The story is about thinking about mastery. It popped into my head.
Okay.
It's about Picasso, and he's at, I think, a restaurant, and this sort of very entitled rich woman at this fancy restaurant says, "Oh, it's Pablo Picasso. Draw me something."
Oh god.
And so he reaches
Oh,
over,
no way.
he picks up his napkin, he signs his name, he hands it to her, and he says something like, "That'll be $1 million."
Oh, wow.
And she goes, "You just did that in 2 minutes." And he says, "Yes, but it took me my entire life to learn how to do that."
Right.
And I
Right.
just think,
That
A, that's a
story-
baller move.
Yes.
Right.
And B, it's an illustrative story of that
Value.
idea of improvisation and mastery, and like what it means to try to claim that thing that's you can sign your name on a piece of paper and it's worth $1 million. Is that art? Is that branding? Is that
Right.
what's the craft of
It's
that?
all
Yeah,
of the
what was
above.
underneath
Yeah.
all
Totally.
of that?
It's all
Yeah,
of the
what gives
above.
you the sort of call, the calling to be able to call that?
Right.
And, who's to say that like those very same words out of a 10-year-old wouldn't get that money too, because of what that imbues is like
Right.
some kind of just ballsiness, like you said.
Yeah.
I mean,
number
it's
one.
something that I think we're seeing now. We probably have to wrap it up. There's a little bit of a tangent, but I think we're really seeing it right now with the Never Again movement. Like the voices of high school students in
Yeah.
the gun reform debate, because they're in high school, because they can't vote, because they're so young, are more powerful than, the rest of us good liberals who've been screaming about it for the last however many years.
Well, and if anyone has self-awareness, they know that when you were 17, you're the smartest you'll ever be. You're maybe
God,
not
that's depressing.
maybe not in decision making, but in like just wired to the truth, and just sort of wired to like what matters. And yes, it's all dramatic, but there's a reason that we say we never get out of high school.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much that they
So
can
much
grab.
growth. So much
Their
growth.
their brains are open more than actually the saying from 0 to 2. That your expansiveness is also what happens in high school.
Totally. I had
Yeah.
an AP physics teacher whose favorite thing is he used to say kids are dumb, and I'd never heard a teacher call students dumb before, because that's like a cardinal sin.
Okay.
But you're at like, the highest level science class that you can do in high school, so it's obvious that he's affectionate. It's obvious that he means it as a joke,
Yeah.
but also not. Like he's saying, I have had life experience, you have not. Therefore, like, you will be, and he totally owned the fact that like there were kids in that class who were better at physics than he was
Oh my gosh.
at that level, but also that he was the teacher.
Yeah.
And there's an interesting dual track there.
The master.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, and in that sort of dynamic, I think those kids in Florida right now are being mentored very, very well, and being held to storytelling, and it's the kids, it's the teachers, it's
Yeah.
the now time.
And you know what? They're all theater students.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's how a lot of them know each other.
Is through just being self-expressed in front of people.
Right.
Awesome. Yay.
Cool.
All right. Well, I think that wraps us up for right now. Do you have anything more?
I just feel like anytime you end something, I always have that. Well, that wraps up another Rocky show playing in my head. It's at the end of every Rocky and Bullwinkle. Y'all probably don't know what I'm
We
talking
do.
about. but-
What do you mean?
Oh, but yeah, Rocky and Bullwinkle.
That's
forever.
it. That's
Perfect ending,
How
yeah.
do you? Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Woo! All right.
Hey, thanks for listening. We're really glad you tuned in. Immersed in Art was recorded 2 years ago in 2018. I'm really sorry it's taken me so long to edit these. I want to thank our sound engineer, Jacob Baumgardner. I want to thank all of the guests who have waited so long for their words to be heard. They are important, and we hope to do more. If you liked this, please subscribe, share, and also if you want to be a part of it, just send me an email, maura@offthewallgraffiti.org, or hit us up on any of the socials. And I want to do an extra special shout out to Luciano West, who created that amazing theme song. He came over to the house one day, dropped some beats. Avery McCarthy got on bass and I got on the spray cans, and we made that beat. I think it's awesome. I hope you like it. And yeah, listen up. Let's do more of these.